All right, family, if you find yourself here, it is because you want to know the latest information going around the Dallas Mavericks and the NBA, especially with Luka Doncic. We make sure that we tap into all those news sources and give it to you here in one-stop shop. And give it to you here in a one-stop shop to keep you from having to waste your time, because your time is important. So without further ado, we will be hopping into legs, breaking down the whole situation with Kyrie, his injury, and he might even drop some tea on Anthony Davis.
And that's facts.
Wait a minute.
We're gonna learn today.
We're gonna learn today.
Travel and head to the airport. But Legs, how you doing today?
I'm good, man. Like you said, though, I'm about to head out the door for the airport. I was just telling you guys before we came on. This will be, by the end of this next trip, 20 out of 24 days away from home, man. So it's a lot, but I'm not complaining because I love my job, and I got 3 great games on my schedule on this trip. So I can't wait.
Including one in Denver. I can't wait.
And
And
that's
we got a
facts.
show tomorrow. We're off Thursday, but Friday we will be live in studio at the DMVR bar, which would be great. It's always fun when we get to do a show in studio. On today's slate, it's going to be a shorter show because, as Legs mentioned, he has to get to the airport. But we're going to talk about a horrible collapse from the Grizzlies in the clutch last night against the Hawks. They also lost Jaren Jackson Jr. And we're going to talk about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's on the hottest scoring stretch of his career by far. And what does that mean about the Thunder and about Shai's growth as a player? But we have to start, Legs, with some horrible news. It just dropped right before we went live, maybe 6 minutes ago. Shams Charania tweets what I think we all kind of anticipated was the truth, which is that Kyrie Irving last night in their loss suffered an ACL tear. He goes down. He ended up, you saw tears in his eyes. You could tell he knew.
And before we go any further, what were your thoughts? What were you doing when Kyrie Irving went down? What was going through your head? Because the first thing I noticed when he went down was the fact that his hand, it was like it was twitching. I was like, oh, he locked up. Yeah,
Hey, yo.
They be out here watching. But his hand had started twitching. I was like, oh, this is not good. And he stayed down. Yeah, I was straight out here like,
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
Whole thing, just do this because the recovery starts now. But the news just dropped that it's a torn ACL. Things could not have gone worse for
I beg your pardon.
what? What? Are they serious? A torn ACL? Now, I ain't gonna lie, Kyrie was wild in the way he went into the paint, but this is crazy. And then I see memes floating around saying that the Dallas Mavericks have the worst training staff in the league. And I don't know whether to believe it or think it's just troll or it's a meme.
Nico Harrison and the Dallas Mavericks over the last month.
First of all, I just, I'm sick to my stomach for Kyrie Irving. As a guy that I suffered 2 ACL tears, one on each knee, one in the league, one after I was retired. And I was just playing in a men's league a few years after I got out of the NBA. But the one that really changed the course of my career happened in 96, right at the end of the season. And to your point, I came to a jump stop. I planted. I went to shoot a mid-range jump shot. And as I planted, my knee did very similar motion to what Kyrie's knee did.
Hey, and we can't get around the fact that Valanciunas got to get his body in check.
Hey,
My boy tripped Kyrie, which led to the whole debacle of him falling because he tried to catch himself from the first trip. But then when he took his last step with the other leg, it just didn't have enough.
And I knew it before I even hit the ground. I knew it. And even though the doctors kind of checked me out a little bit on the court, they got me back to the locker room. They checked it. They thought, hey, you know what? I'm not sure. I knew. And Kyrie Irving knew. And to be honest with you, Adam, when I saw the play, when your knee hyperextends like in a backwards motion, like your knee kind of comes back when you plant going quickly like that, and you plant, and then that's the motion of your knee. It's almost guaranteed that's what you're going to do. It's a scissor action that takes place, and it's like snips it.
Yeah.
He knew while he was laying there, and I had a very sick feeling in my stomach that this was going to be the news. Amazing. He got up, shot his free throws. I got helped off the court. Like everybody's different. I remember Haywood Workman years ago toured, and he continued to play.
Did Kyrie show the Kobe mentality, getting up and shooting those free throws?
Like everybody's different, and how severe it is. Is there any cartilage that was affected? Like all kinds of stuff. He shot his free throws, thinking, "Hey, maybe I'm coming back in the game. If I don't shoot the free throws, I can't return. So I'm going to go ahead and shoot these free throws and leave." He knew. You could tell by his reaction. And I am sick to my stomach for him, primarily because I know very well what the next year and a half looks like for Kyrie Irving, and that's the hardest part for the athlete. Like you can cope with, okay, I'm hurt. It's the grind of what your life is now going to become. It's a full-time dedication to physical therapy after you get through surgery. Every day, that is your life and that is your grind without any reward of playing and the adrenaline of the fans, and it goes away. All it is you behind the scenes working toward getting back close to what you used to be. And that's what Kyrie Irving is facing now as we sit here. And it makes me sick to my stomach for him more than anything else. There's a lot of ramifications here for the Mavericks, obviously. They're connected now. This is always going to be even more connected now to what they did by trading Luka Doncic. But for the moment, first things first, I feel terrible for Kyrie.
But Nico, you got some questions to answer, and the fan base is only getting fired up. this was something to reinvigorate their fuel in their fire.
And he was having a great year. You know, he was playing, efficient basketball. He was playing good basketball. He carried them for large periods early on when Luka was out. And, if you tried, and I know Mavs fans really hadn't turned their attention to this because of how absurd the trade was, but if you tried to talk yourself into, they did look good in the moments when they had Anthony Davis, the one half they got to play with, more or less their full roster. And, Kyrie was a big part of that. If you were ever going to get over this Luka thing, Kyrie was a big part of that.
I mean, it was short-lived. Anthony Davis only played 2 quarters, basically.
I think he's been a good player to root for, since being in Dallas, which is always something as fans. I think this is one of the things I think Nico Harrison discounted is that fans liked rooting for Luka. They liked rooting for Kyrie. Now you have neither of them.
Facts. And that was a lot of pull. And I know a lot of content creators had these special players. And now that they are no longer active and able to go out on the court and compete, the free exposure is over.
You're gonna learn today.
I said the free exposure is over.
You're gonna learn today.
It's absolutely absurd and painful that this happens. And to your point, the trade itself was always going to be scrutinized. You have to win at the highest level. And you said when the trade went down, one wouldn't do it. You'd have to win multiple ones to make up for this. Well, now the circumstance is Anthony Davis is already injured. Maybe it changes whether you bring him back this year or not. Either way, it doesn't matter because Kyrie Irving did this.
So I'm going to ask y'all, do y'all want to see Anthony Davis come back to try to make a playoff push? Or would you rather him just rest it out and then try to come back full strength next season?
Late enough in the season that you don't expect him to play next year. It would be insane for him to play next year. So now you're talking about a trade that takes you out of this season's contention, takes you out of next season's contention. And oh, by the way, Anthony Davis turns 32 next week. So now you're going to have a age 32 season, go to age 33. The next chance you have to contend for a title will feature a 33-year-old Anthony Davis and a Kyrie Irving coming back from injury. There's no way to polish that, legs. This is not a very promising situation at all. And I just don't see any outs for it.
I'm going to blow the whistle on this boy.
Hey, yo.
Flag on the play. You can't just be paddling it on like that.
Hey, yo.
No, you're right about the timing of this. Listen, they've made incredible progress with this surgery. It's a lot less invasive than it was when I played. The rehab is so much better in terms of what they need to do to get you back sooner. But the end of the day is this, conservatively, it's a year.
Yeah.
That's puts you in March. I doubt Kyrie Irving is coming back in late March, whatever it may be, with 2 weeks in April and you're in the play.
So that's 2 years, or at least 1 year and then some time, not to mention the contract years coming up as well. Do you think they will treat Kyrie as if he is damaged goods, not wanting to pay him in order to get a star? But what stars would want to come to Dallas, especially when you traded Luka Doncic away in the middle of the night? Do the Dallas Mavericks expect people to want to come to Dallas and play, not knowing what the ownership is capable of doing, depending on which way they're feeling, depending on which way the wind is blowing?
Playoffs. So to your point, I think very good chance you're not going to see Kyrie Irving for a year and a half.
Yeah.
And so now you got Anthony Davis, whenever he gets back the rest of this year without another star, coming off of a prolonged injury.
Yep.
Okay. So this year, it's almost inconceivable that this team is a threat to anything. We were all waiting to see, hey man, Anthony Davis looked so good in that first game. And he's just a great player in general. He was so good for the Lakers too. And he gave you a taste of it. And now it's like, man, wait till Anthony Davis gets back. Like, the Mavericks gonna have something to say about, how the bottom of the Western Conference playoff picture looks. And is that scary for like the teams at the top? Well, that's inconceivable now. That's out the window. They don't have another star player. Anthony Davis, we don't even know when he's coming back. So that's that. Now you've got to go into next year. Now we'll see what they do over the summer, but you're not going to land a player of Kyrie Irving caliber. You're not going to get another superstar offensive talent to pair with Anthony Davis. So now you're going to go in the next season. And by the way, as durable as Anthony Davis was over the last couple of years, we know his track record, and it struck again as soon as he got to Dallas. So
I'm trying to figure out how we all know Anthony Davis's track record, but Nico didn't know Anthony Davis's track record. They're saying that the Dallas Mavericks are full of second options. What say you? I need to know the consensus. I need to know what's going through your head. Are the Dallas Mavericks full of second options? And what's going on with KJ Martin? Because he's the type of player that we'll need to step up. Quentin Grimes, my boy's dropping 44 pieces and 50 balls, but yet you couldn't wait until the end of this season to make a decision. You had to move now. You traded 2 players that are capable of playing now for 2 players that are incapable of playing now. Your best ability is availability. And the 2 players that Nico decided to trade for are both unavailable. That says a lot.
the chances Anthony Davis gives you 75 games next year? I say 0% chance of that. So now just look at how.
Did he say 0?
Shots fired.
And if it's shots, I mean, my boy, it's shots.
Dire this situation has become for the Dallas Mavericks.
Yeah.
And there are no answers for this, Adam. Like, that you have to view them completely differently, short-term and long-term. And remember Nico Harrison, his line
And
in that
that's
press
facts.
conference? This gives us the best chance to win in the short term and in the future. And by the future, I define that as 3 years.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? You just lost a year and a
Yeah.
half of that time. So
Did the Dallas Mavericks lose more than a year and a half, or are they on the right time schedule? Man, put it in the comments. I already know your answers, though. Hashtag shots fired.
it's as ugly and dark as it could possibly get. Your first thought is always Kyrie Irving to come back, recover. I don't think anybody comes back 100%. But if you can get back to 90, 95 and you're Kyrie Irving, you're still a hell of a player and a major force in this league. But there's a lot of work to be done before you even get to that point. And he's an older guard in his 30s. That's tough, man. Who knows what the road looks like for him? But anyway, shape it for the Mavericks. This is a disaster. I mean, of epic proportions and how this has all played out since the day they decided they wanted to trade Luka Doncic.
Well, he's 32. He turns 33 later this month on March 23rd. So you're talking about him next year, his age 33 season. He's out for that. Jamal Murray tore his ACL in 2021, right around this exact same time in early March or mid-March. So I know, for a guard, he was a young guard. He missed the rest of that season. Obviously, the entire next season, Denver, you were wondering, could he come back for just the playoffs? That ended up not happening. And now when you talk about a 33-year-old guy who, by the way, will be on an expiring contract next year, I just don't see a world where he would risk that coming back for such a short runway, whether he'd be available to begin with. But even if he is, would you risk it being out of shape and everything else on a bad knee going into a contract year? Probably not. So now you look at Nico Harrison's logic and say, okay, this was a short-term thing. And by the way, the irony of it was, the subtext of his Luka concerns, as he voiced them, was we're worried about injuries. Like, he's not taking care of his body. He might get injured. Well, now you have Kyrie Irving, who takes incredible care of his body, who's injured. You have Anthony Davis injured. You got Derek Lively injured. You have the exact fear on your roster that you were trying to avoid. But he's a free agent after next year. He has a player option for next season. So even with all of this, you just made a move to win now. And by the time your players will be ready, they'll be free agents. I can't imagine a bigger disaster.
It's crazy because on my last video with LeBron, it was basically saying everything was about Luka. And one of the things about Luka is the fact that he'll be able to be eligible to leave Los Angeles after his contract is up. Anthony Davis is going to be in a similar situation. So the Dallas Mavericks just traded their future and didn't have anything solidified to fall back on.
Honestly, I feel for Mavs fans. My heart goes out to them. But this is, to me, as big of a disaster as you could have scripted when that trade went down.
No question. And I don't know, there's somebody in the chat, Ryan Dalian, he's talking about no chance. What if they got all their guys back before the playoffs? I'm not sure if you heard what we said. He tore his ACL. He's not coming back before. And what do you mean? I don't know who you mean by all their guys. Kyrie Irving is not playing until minimum the end of next season. And that means he's not playing next year. I'm going to put it out there right now. He is not playing next year. Think about this. I just did the math on this real quick. Going into this season, Kyrie Irving has played in 73% of his team's available games since he came into the league. So he's never even torn his ACL, and he misses a quarter of the season on average every year.
That's crazy when you break it down like that.
Not an ACL.
You're wrong for
so
that.
to think that he could come back with 20 games left in a year and start playing again, they're just not going to do that. They wouldn't risk that. When you have another 6 months coming your way, that's just probably the smart thing to do. It's not. Look, I'm not going to say Adrian Peterson. We all know came back miraculously from an ACL and broke records the next season. But he's a one-off freak. Everybody knows, freak of nature. Some guys have come back sooner from these injuries. They've come back sooner. I'm just going with what the average time frame is. And a guy this valuable, you're not going to press him into action after a year off with a handful of games before the playoffs next season. So you're right. I mean, I don't know. Disaster doesn't even. There's got to be a different word. This is a cataclysmic event for the Dallas Mavericks. And Nico Harrison was sitting there after this trade and keeping his fingers crossed. Hey man, just wait till we get AD back. We're gonna show everybody. I knew what I was talking about. And unfortunately for him, you're not going to really see it anytime.
I don't think you'll ever see it. I don't think we'll ever see it, Legs. I mean, Kyrie's contract is up next year. Maybe he resigns, but again, you're talking about a 34-year-old that year. He'll be in his age 34 season, coming off of an ACL injury. Like, even then, that's not the vision they had. So we'll never see it. This is the thing. We were talking when the trade went down about historical precedent in the NBA, and we think about, is there a trade that this reminds you of? To be honest, the thing that comes to mind is the Red Sox trading Babe Ruth. You have to go back 100 years, and it almost feels more like trading Babe Ruth, and then of course being cursed for 100 seasons. But that's what this feels like with the luck that they've run into in the immediate aftermath of that trade.
And it's like
one reason why I decided to change from the Mavs sphere back to Lockbox CNT is because I felt there was bad juju on the team. Some of this bad juju could have came from Mark Cuban in the election. I just had a feeling that things weren't going the way that they needed to do, especially for growth on this channel. That's why we're spreading out to the whole NBA. If you are still watching this video in this point, make sure you tap in so you can be back in. I appreciate you. and your time is valued here in Lockbox ENT.
Okay, whatever. It's one thing how this all played out for the Mavericks, right? Anthony Davis gets hurt right away, and now Kyrie Irving has a career-altering injury. Okay, and we got a very long time. That's one thing. But then on the top of it, Luka goes to a team now that's the hottest team in the Western Conference. They have gone to number 2 in the West. They look like a legitimate threat to get to the finals. And our Mavs fans may have to sit back and watch that play out just like that. This year. Like they might be the last team against Oklahoma City. Maybe,
choice.
Who knows? Maybe they can beat Oklahoma City. I mean, we don't know how good the Lakers are going to look by the time you get there, but there's no doubt they're a threat to win the Western Conference. And you're the Mavericks now. Not only do you have to watch that play out, you don't even get to watch the guys you got back play. Like Anthony Davis isn't even playing. Kyrie Irving is now out for the year.
They're not even talking about KJ Morton.
For their fans, man. I feel horrible for their fans. And, we just flexed out. And I'm sure ESPN is even more grateful now. We were supposed to be doing the Philly-Dallas game this coming Sunday on ABC. And a lot of it, they flexed out. One, Anthony Davis isn't playing, but the way Philly looks, and Embiid's not playing either. Now you flex out of that game, and we go Oklahoma City, Denver on Sunday. So this is just a situation now, man. I don't even know. It's already been so bad for Nico Harrison and Dallas with their fan base. And look, it's not his fault Kyrie Irving tore his ACL, but it's just the way this is all played out. And this was a team that went to the finals a year ago, and look where they are now.
Right.
Look where they are.
It's crazy how quickly that can evaporate. It's crazy. If the one saving grace, I guess, for Dallas, I don't even think this is a saving grace. Like you're just squinting for a silver lining.
I can't wait to hear what the end of this sentence.
Well,
what's your saving grace? Let's go.
Hey, this is the same guy that tried to say Max Christie was our silver lining. I was like, is you serious? I say,
I beg your pardon.
Sit down.
I shouldn't have said
No, I gotta hear this.
They are in the 10 seed, and the team chasing them is the only team in the NBA that's sadder than them, which is the Phoenix Suns. And I don't even know if they're sadder than Dallas right now. They might not be. Dallas might have just leapfrogged Phoenix for saddest team in the NBA, but the Suns are 2-8. Like there's a chance that Dallas can even just hold on to this play-in hope. But again, like at what point is it just no longer exciting? Like at what point the ceiling on this thing is so low now this season that even holding on to that spot is not exactly hopeful.
But look, even with Kyrie Irving playing, you didn't have Anthony Davis, but they've just lost 4 out of 5, and they've lost by scores of 24, 8, 15, and 24. Yeah. That's their last 4 losses. Sacramento, Milwaukee, the Lakers, and Golden State. I mean, that's a tough stretch with your one win against Charlotte by 7. You got to go to Milwaukee. You got Memphis.
But you can't be losing like that, even if you want to make a push.
They've got Phoenix one more time. So that's a big game for Phoenix if they even care. Like something about Phoenix is like they're so lifeless. Like what could inject more life into you than this news? So like if you care enough, like fight.
All right, and the plot thickens. The Dallas Mavericks, are they trying to tank? Or will they be in position of tanking? They're no stranger to it. Trying to get Dalton Connect. Trying to get Cooper Flag next year. Apparently, allegedly, he might be going back. Allegedly, he might be going back into the NCAA pool.
To get in, because you're right. I mean, that's the only saving grace. That's a good way to put it for Dallas. But here's the thing. Even if you can get into the play-in, do you really think without Kyrie Irving, with just Anthony Davis and role players, and not an electric ball handler, like a guy that can get his own off the dribble, you need a guy like that who's left on their team to do that. Anthony Davis is great. You're going to come up the floor
Nico,
and walk it up and just throw the ball to AD and let him run ISOs. And he's not good enough to beat you with his passing. And he'll put up numbers, but he's going to get blitzed every single time down the court that he touches the ball in the scoring area, and they're going to make other people beat you. So, I mean, we'll see how this plays out with Dallas and Phoenix. It's an interesting dynamic because Phoenix has acted like they don't even want to play together. And, they're limping into just the off season. And now you go, wait a second, they might hand it to us. So we probably should go ahead and play and try to get into the play-in. That's going to be interesting to see how that plays out the rest of the way.
Realistic one, and I'm throwing this at you. You can just give a quick answer since you haven't had time to really think about this. But if you're Nico Harrison now, do you just look to move Anthony Davis? He makes $60 million a year for the next 3 years after this one, so it's not even the easiest contract. It's a lot of money. But do you look at this and say, hey, man, I made a move, it didn't work out. Immediate pivot. Like the next year.
Absolutely. I don't need time to think about that. Yes, you do. And here's what you do. You go try to get back what you should have gotten back in the first place. Because there's probably a team out there that wants Anthony Davis winning a title, and they've got
So you mean you're trying to trade? So you mean get rid of Anthony Davis after we traded our generational superstar in Luka Doncic to the Lakers for Anthony Davis, and then we don't even get no uses out of him? This is crazy. It makes no sense. That's all I got to say.
guys and main going forward.
Yeah, your mic might have cut out there for a quick second there.
Anthony Davis now to go get what you should have gotten in the first place, which is younger talent. And it's going to look more like a rebuild, but you didn't get that in return. You got a guy in his 30s, and that was, to me, was the most mystifying thing. There was a group of guys I had listed. If you're going to move Luka, one of these 6 or 7 guys has to be coming back around the league, and they didn't do that. So maybe now you can move Anthony. You're still probably not going to get that group of guys, but you might be able to get a couple of younger players and picks for Anthony Davis to go to a team that could potentially be the tipping point in winning a title.
Hey, what say y'all? Do y'all agree with? Hey, what say y'all? Do y'all agree with Leg's take on this? Do y'all think he's tripping? I think he's tripping.
And that's facts.
Whatever, he gonna have to sit on the bench. They made this bed, they gonna have to lie in it. But you're not gonna trade everybody off the team. We need something.
Over the summer, maybe that is something they explore. I think some of this is going to have to do with once they get more information on Kyrie Irving after the surgery, what he looks like going into the summer with his rehab. Because you don't know, man. It's not just the ACL. The biggest component with this injury is what happened to his cartilage. Your meniscus is much more important than your ACL. They're going to put a new ACL in him, and they're going to secure and fasten that thing with titanium screws. It's going to be stronger than the old one. The cartilage does not regenerate. Take it from me. You start losing that, or you have to get some snipped out. It's your shock absorber on your knee. That ultimately.
Well, on the right side, Leg said he had 2. On the right side, Leg said this happened to him twice. On the right side, Leg say this happened to him 2 times. Kyrie Irving hasn't had any serious injuries, so therefore, hopefully, he has enough cartilage in that area for him to be able to return back to the court.
Is what affects guys long term from an ACL. It's not the actual. So there's no telling what they're going to find when they go in there. And once Dallas gets more information on that, it could affect Adam the way they approach their summer with Anthony Davis.
I don't want to eulogize his career at the moment because, guys bounce back. Guys extend their career. They go a little bit longer. But Kyrie, to me, has been such an enjoyable player, in the league. And he's one of the most fun guys to watch. In a lot of ways, like one of the most inspiring guys. He's just so technically proficient. He's good at everything. A lot of people say, the most skilled player of all time. He really has been just so incredible with probably the best handle of all time. And if this is the end of his peak, even if he comes back from this, is he a step below what he was just by age as well as injury? It's a loss for the NBA. And it's a bummer. So my heart goes out to Kyrie. It goes out to the Mavs fans who no fan base deserves this. No fan base.
Where would you rank Kyrie on the all-time list? I need you to drop it below hashtag and the number.
And that's facts.
In any sport deserves whatever just happened to the Dallas Mavericks.
Hey, look, the last thing I'm going to say on this, Adam, is this. Okay, now everybody knows how I feel about the trade. And I went in on Nico pretty hard. I said it was unimaginable that a team could make that decision. Unimaginable. And the downside risk is what I kept saying. Within hours after, and I said it for days after, as long as we were talking about the trade, the downside risk of trading a guy like Luka Doncic at 25 years old was just too much to justify that trade.
Especially with
and
what
here
you
now,
got back
anybody can tear their ACL. Guys in their 20s tear their ACL sometimes too. But you are risking, and this isn't the guy he traded for, but it's just the route you went with 2 30-plus-year-olds going forward for a very short window to try to win. You run the risk of injuries happening to those guys, and it's much more risky with them than it is with a guy like Luka Doncic. And Luka's already proven he can win in this league. He didn't win it all yet, but very few guys do by that age. He was figuring it out. And so to make the move to go this route amongst 2 older stars, and that's like how you want to build everything.
Dallas Mavericks.
I'm sorry, man.
Impatient.
These aren't connected to the decision. This is just
the
bad
Dallas
luck.
Mavericks ownership is impatient.
The wheels were set in motion for bad things to happen by making the decision in the first place.
Let's take a break. On the other side, we got to get to the game that we want to talk about, which was a Grizzlies-Hawks matchup that had all of the things you love about basketball: air balls, side of the backboard shots, turnovers, everything in the clutch you ask for in a great game. We'll get to that on the other side. NBA action is just
the Grizzlies out here wilding. Air balls after air balls on air balls on air balls like it's a rap video.
Beginning on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because FanDuel is your home for NBA live betting. So even if you miss the first few minutes of the game and want to get a fourth quarter bet in, you can make your picks from the first whistle all the way up until the final buzzer. Plus, you can even combine your live
50 years from now as one of the worst in the history of the league. The irony here is, does this actually give Nico Harrison an out in a way? Because if Kyrie misses a year and a half, man, and like Anthony Davis is hurt now, but like, even if he comes back, and let's say Kyrie does miss all of next season, which we both think is very likely, And then, the next year, we all know it's the second year after you come back when you feel normal again from an ACL. Ask any player who's had it. The first season you play, you're not normal. You're tentative. You're afraid to. Desmond Bane was basically running point guard for this team. And he had a great game. He had a 30-point triple-double, and he was great all night.
Games. And this one was crazy. The Grizzlies were up. I thought the game was in the bag. I was watching it. I texted you actually. I was watching. I was like, hey, this is a pretty good game. And the Grizzlies.
All right, so we got the
11
Grizzlies
to go, and I thought, we're not going to get a good finish out of it. But everything that happened over the last 6 minutes for the Grizzlies, a team that is usually very poised and has a lot of guys that just play the right way, was an absolute disaster, leading up all the way to a final turnover for Desmond Bane. Literally, they had the last shot. There's like 13 seconds. You're going to get the last shot of the game. You dribble it up, get a turnover. I believe it was DeAndre Hunter. I don't know. I don't have.
All right, I'm going to say this now. The Dallas Mavericks need to make a way to go get Desmond Bane in order to bounce back. We need to make that happen. Matter of fact, who do you think would be a good pickup since Kyrie Irving has went down for the Dallas Mavericks? And this is for all NBA supporters. Who do you think the Dallas Mavericks should target, somebody that they should go pick up?
Oh, no, it was Karis LeVert. Karis LeVert gets the steal and has just about 3 seconds to dribble the length of the court and deliver a layup that goes through the net as the buzzer hits. What a way to lose. What happened in this collapse, Legs?
It's just as bad, like crunch time offense as you will ever see in an NBA game. Now, they didn't have Ja Morant. That helps explain some of it. I mean, Ja is going to probably get them a little bit more organized and make sure they get something when they need to going downhill where you're attacking. Like Desmond Bane was basically running point guard for this team. And he had a great.
Bruh, something is always going on with Ja Morant. I can't even get his name out. Something is always going on with Ja Morant. I need him to get it together, man.
Game. He had a 30-point triple-double, and he was great all night. He was as bad as you can possibly be in the last 3 minutes of the game. He had 2 turnovers, including the one, which was a great play, by the way, by Dyson Daniels. I mean, he was one of those reach in and poke it away type strips. When he's coming right at you, he just reached that long arm in there, poked it away. He went behind him. He picked it up, threw it ahead. LeVert scores at the buzzer. But he had another turnover, a travel, coming off a down screen. And then he also shot a 3 off the side of the backboard in the left corner, and then shot an airball 3 from the left wing. That was all in the last 3 minutes of the game.
35-point triple-double, by the way, probably his best statistical game of all time, and it's going to be, for him, feel terrible.
That's tough.
Because of how it ended.
And despite all of that, they were still like pretty good shape to win the game. Zach Edey had a monster dunk with 2.5 minutes to go up 5. And you still think.
For all the Grizzlies supporters out here, how are you feeling about Zach Edey? Has Zach Edey's size and potential helped elevate Memphis in order to make those crucial clutch plays in order to seal the deal when games get down to crunch time?
All right, they're still in great shape here. LeVert comes right back and hits a 3 right as the shot clock is expiring to cut it to 2.
Hey, the Dallas Mavericks need to go get LeVert too.
Biggest shot of the game. He misses that shot. You're inside 2 minutes up 5. And there's a good chance Memphis is going to win the game. So LeVert answering that Edey dunk with a 3 cuts it to 2. And then Bane misses a shot. Then you had the weird challenge that got overturned. LeVert scores to tie it with 1.5 minutes to go. Bane travels. Trae Young misses. Vince Williams misses a floater. Karis LeVert misses a 3.
This was a really bad last 2 minutes.
Yeah, everybody. It sets up that last play. And Bane, first of all, he did go too early. You got a chance basically to hold it for the last shot. And
None
Bane
of these was
went with
ready.
about 8 seconds left. He started to go down the left slot with a live dribble, and it wasn't a trap, wasn't a ball screen. He just was going toward the rim against a defender that you loved. It's one of your guys. I give him to you. Dyson Daniels, your guy. Dyson Daniels reaches in, pokes it, throws it ahead to LeVert, and there you go. A game that Memphis was up 12 midway through the fourth quarter. They lose at the buzzer. Just a devastating loss tonight. Look, the Hawks are an interesting team, man, because they got some guys I like.
Yeah.
And somehow they don't win more games because I like some of their younger talent. But this was a bad loss for me. You got a chance to win a game, without Ja. Oh, we forgot to mention Jaren Jackson Jr. goes out of this game with a sprained ankle, so he has no impact in the second half of the game. You're missing your 2 best players. You got a chance to win this game against Atlanta up 12, and you cannot operate your offense efficiently enough. Even if you just don't turn it over the last 3 minutes, you're going to win the game. 3 turnovers, bunch of missed shots, and it sets up the Hawks stealing one on the road.
So I want to go back to the travel because I actually think that play was really interesting. Bane was having a great game, and then he started to struggle. He had half of the plays he just talked about happened in that stretch. And Bane gets it on an island. Their game is not pick and roll. It's just guys attack one-on-one. It's a lot of just trying to attack, collapse the defense, and get the ball moving. So he gets it, and he kind of makes a move. It doesn't go anywhere, and he flips it to Jalen Wells. And Jalen Wells, who I thought had a good game, I love watching this dude play. He's one of my favorite young players in the league. He catches the ball, looks at the rim, and kind of almost like shakes his head and gives it right back to Bane. Like, no, I don't want it here. It was a very much.
Bruh, come on, you gotta take it to the hole.
So not me. And Bane almost like reluctantly was like, all right, again. And then he travels. And to me, it was just, this is the problem. You don't have Jaren Jackson Jr. who went down early. You don't have Ja Morant. We should talk about Jaren Jackson Jr.
Does Desmond Bane have any help other than the 2 players that were unavailable that night? Who is going to be that next player other than Desmond Bane to step up to help the Memphis Grizzlies propel themselves for a good playoff push?
Second, but when you don't have your 2 main guys, who steps up? And that was just that's when I thought they were going to lose because both guys there were like, I don't want this. You want it? I don't want it. And then it ended in a travel.
So true, man. And that's what, look, and
It's
not
like
only
that Luka
do you
and
not have
Kyrie
Ja,
moment.
like Jaren Jackson Jr. is another guy you run your offense through because of his ability to back you down. He's so good at backing you down and getting
He
where he
just
wants. He's going to
throws
draw
it in
multiple
the
guys. If you don't
basket.
come, he can shoot a little short jump hook with either hand. So that's the other way they'll run their offense.
I'll be
And
like,
Bane is
damn.
better off. He can
Stop
make some
doing
plays,
that.
and he showed it in this game. And he's not bad at that. He's better when he's that third option, and those guys draw some attention, and now it swings to him, and he can either catch and shoot three, or he can then attack. When you put it in his hands at the beginning of every possession and say, okay, let's make sure you land this plane here, and let's get us home by making sure we get good possessions. That's not his strong suit, and it ended up being kind of a disaster for them over the rest of that game. Atlanta, give him credit. LeVert played out of his mind. He played great. The guy I wanted to talk to you about for Atlanta, and people forget it's the first pick in the draft.
He was incredible last night.
If you went to any NBA city and you just walk down the street outside of the arena as it's letting out the fans in any NBA city, and you said, who's the number one pick in the 2024 NBA draft? How many people you think would guess Zachary Ricochet?
I know, not many.
You'd forget that he was the number one pick. I got news for you. He can play, man. He can really play. Like ball. And he's been playing.
Your mic cut out
27
again there. Oh, there it goes. Yeah, you're back. It's that flimsy wire.
Yeah, I can't be demonstrative with my left hand at all. Yeah, 27 in this game. I don't know. That's not his career high. I'm looking at it now. He had 30 just even less than a month ago. But he impresses me. He is. Yeah. I love the pace he plays at. Very confident, and he can really shoot it. I mean, they found themselves a player, and no one would have been able to remember who the number one pick in the draft was a year ago. But it was Zachary Ricochet, and he starts for them, and he's been a very important piece on a solid team. They're not a great team, not a good team. They're an average team in this league. They're dangerous on certain nights because they've got a lot of guys that can play. They don't put it together very often, but he impressed me last night. I don't know about your thoughts on him overall or specifically from the game last night, but I was very impressed watching him, and I have been now for a couple of months.
No, he was incredible last night. 11 of 13, 5 of 7 from the three-point line. And what impressed me about him, his shot is what he was known for. He's going to be a guy that can shoot and do some other stuff. He finishes some tough, like off the dribble towards the basket, like going towards the basket, not necessarily floaters, but shots around the defense and just these tough angled finishes. And he finished a lot of them last night in ways, including in the clutch, where I was like, man, that's a tough finish. That was a nice little drive and finish. So, and I like what you mentioned about his confidence, because a lot of that stuff is confidence, like the confidence to take a shot you probably don't practice. You're just counting on your body control and touch. And he goes up with those with confidence. And then like what I like about him is he knows how to play. I think he's a guy whose game will scale nicely as their team improves. Like as they get better, he's a guy that I think will fit into whatever evolution they have. And you mentioned this team being interesting. I agree. I mean, they're one Jalen Johnson away from me really liking the team. Even a guy like Karis LeVert, who's not my typical guy I like, they need what he brings. So I look at that one and I go, I just wish they had their full roster this year. Not that I think they would be a contender or anything like that, but they're really fun. They just have a lot of guys that I think are good that in theory fit together. We just never get to see it.
Totally agree. They're fun last night, and you have to look at how they've kind of remade themselves. They've got a lot of new guys in their rotation that are playing now, and it's always going to be centered around Trey Mann. It's always going to be LeVert. Ricochet is a rookie. Like Dyson Daniels hasn't been there that long. Like it's a fun young group. They're entertaining. It's always going to be built around Trae Young. But truth is, they stole the game. They stole this game from Memphis.
All right. So what say you? Did they steal the game from Memphis, or did Memphis cough it up? Make sure you stick around